What is your favorite childhood video game? Do you have one? Do you have a couple? That could be a daunting question, as there are tons and tons and tons of games out there. Let me ask you another question. When is the last time you got to play your favorite childhood game? With so many new games coming out every year, you probably think that you need to try to keep up and play the games that are current, right? Or maybe you need to play the games that your friends are playing. Wrong. I'm going to give you some advice that may blow your mind, but it's really not that crazy. Are you ready? Simply play the games that make you happy. My name is Dallas. Thank you so much for checking out my video, as I have a passion for gaming and I've been sitting on this idea for, well, a while. If you're anything like myself, you might find yourself as the type of person that's too busy, and outside of work, you want to spend time with friends and family, and maybe gaming isn't your only hobby. So how do you spend your allocated amount of gaming time? Should you play the new Elden Ring DLC? What about the new college football game? I mean, everyone is playing. Some gamers choose to play what's new. Others, maybe just whatever other people are playing. Or you can always play what's popular. After all, FOMO is a real thing. I can't honestly tell you how many games are in my backlog, but I've got a running list in my notes on my phone that include, but are not limited to, the Dark Souls games, Red Dead 1 and 2, a couple handheld Zelda games, Mario Galaxy. Yeah, I've never beaten either Mario Galaxy game. And right now I'm playing GTA San Andreas because I recently finished Vice City and I fell in love with it. But what do I do to not get overwhelmed by the fact that there are so many games out there I want to play, but not enough time? Well, I'm different from you, and vice versa, so I can't guarantee that what works for me will work for you, but I can always share regardless. So earlier when I said play the games that make you happy, what does that mean? Is it really that simple? Let me use myself as an example. So a couple weeks ago, the new college football game came out, and all my friends and I had been waiting a literal decade for, so clearly I was going to spend a lot of time playing it. But I had also promised my brother and another former coworker that I would start playing more Elden Ring now that the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC was out, and I hadn't even beaten the regular game yet. Oh, but wait, I was also about to platinum Resident Evil 4, but I was also in the middle of playing Pikmin with my wife. And for goodness sake, I've been staring at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on my shelf since I bought it on release day. I will beat it one day. Hopefully I didn't stress any of you out too much with that sadly true scenario of mine, but I'm sure some of you can relate. So what did I do to get past that? I played a random TMNT game from 2003 on the channel, which you can check right up here if you want. I had already beaten the game back when I was a kid, so it definitely wasn't new by any means. It wasn't too hard and really wasn't that long. It's not like anybody was asking me to play it. In fact, I just decided the day before that I would start a playthrough. But why? Well, sometimes I have certain games in mind, or types of games that I view as a soft reset button. A reset game, if you will. Everyone's reset games are going to be different. Mine are games like Mario Sunshine, Ocarina of Time, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, among others. It just kinda depends on what I'm in the mood for. These games usually share a lot of similarities. These games are always games I've beaten before. Always. And I'll get to that later. They're also games that, regardless of what others consider the difficulty, I find to be easy. As weird as it may sound, I'm sure there are at least a couple of you out there that would use a Souls game, or maybe a boxing game as a reset game. It's just whatever works for you. It may not be my de-stressor, but it could be yours. Sometimes it's just playing a game on a lesser difficulty like God of War. Although regardless, that Valkyrie fight is way too tough. These games should also be games that are relatively short, or at least that they feel short. This may be something that some people disagree with, as maybe they do find it relaxing to just casually blow through a 100+ hour playthrough of Persona 5 Royal. And in fact, as I'm reading this, I know for a fact I have one friend that will probably admit to that. Me personally, a game I can play and beat in a week, maybe a couple days, is a good option. A game that I don't have to devote long periods of time to, but that I can sit down and just put my mind on autopilot and relax. Which brings me to the last and most important thing. It kind of overlaps with the first thing, but it's that you need to have a memorable experience or memory with the game. Which brings me back all the way to my opening question. What is your favorite childhood game? Obviously, depending on your age, if you played alone or with friends, and the type of games you were into will determine this. And really, it doesn't have to be from your childhood. Good experiences can mean the first game you ever played, the game you've played the most, a game that led to lifelong friendship, or maybe even a romantic relationship. I mean, the old WWE SmackDown vs. Raw games are still the center point of most conversations I have with a particular friend. And I know my wife and I used Animal Crossing to connect at the beginning of our long-distance relationship. Heck, I might not even be a Resident Evil fan if my old roommates and I hadn't just sat down and all taken turns playing Resident Evil 7 in a dark room at night, huddled around my microphone for a recording. In fact, I still go back and watch some old videos of mine just because they bring the memories rushing back. I hope that while I was rambling off some of my personal experiences with games that you had at least one or two going through your brain. In fact, sometimes if you're just like me, it's heartwarming enough just to think about it and reminisce. If you can't tell, I'm a pretty big nostalgia junkie, and I'll probably do a video on just that topic in the near future if this video gets good reception. When you play old games, you just get a certain familiar feeling that you can't get from new games. And I'm not saying don't play new games by any means, actually play them. Like, absolutely, when you have time, but most importantly, play them when you want to. Don't just play them because someone recommends it to you, or you feel like you have to. Although FOMO is real, don't let it get to you too much. And hopefully this is resonating with you, but it shouldn't really be new info. Just like with music, or a movie, or even food. Familiar gaming from positive times and positive experiences in your life can help in more ways than you know. I find it helps have peace at home, obviously, but even at work, or when I'm around other people, you learn to really appreciate it as something finer, like an art form. Because at the end of the day, that's actually what gaming is. And I'm not saying don't try new foods, or new music genres, or not to go see the new Deadpool and Wolverine movie if it's still in theaters, because it is very funny. You should definitely go see it if you get the chance. But there's no denying you get a different feeling when you put on that song or artist that your dad used to listen to when you were a kid. Or maybe make that dessert from grandma's recipe that she made when you had a bad day. Or maybe it's that first movie that you and your significant other saw. Regardless, it's the exact same thing with gaming. So yeah, that's about all I can think of. I didn't want to make this video too long to bore you guys because I'm by no means an expert on the topic. If you want to hear longer videos like that, then check out my rants I do every Monday. I'll probably do another one like I said on nostalgia specifically. I had just been thinking on this for months honestly, and I wondered how many others might be struggling with the same thought and need some sort of clarity or reassurance. And hey, if you made it this far and you're new to gaming or don't have a favorite past gaming experience, what better time to make one than now? After all, there's no time like the present. Thank you to everyone that took time out of their day to listen to what I had to say. If you would consider subscribing, that would be incredible and would certainly make my day. I'm going to link a video up where I had recently just talked about how video games helped me cope personally with tough times in my life. So, maybe it'll help you too.